Happy holidays, everybody. I'm Dr. Jeremy Hoffman. I'm the David and Jane Cohn scientist here at the Science Museum of Virginia. I'd like to share with you my top 5 climate-related stories of 2021. Number 5, the IPCC AR6. Earlier this year, the Intergovernmental Panel on Climate Change, or IPCC, released the first part of the 6th Assessment Report, or the AR6. More than 200 climate scientists from all over the world contributed to this over 3,000-page report on the state of climate science since the last report was published around a decade ago. The big news? It is now, quote, unequivocal. In other words, cannot be any more certain that human activities have warmed the planet's temperature by about 2 degrees Fahrenheit when comparing the last decade to the 1850 to 1900 time period. Also, for every additional increment of global warming, the impacts of climate change on things that affect us like heat waves, wildfires, droughts, and extreme precipitation get worse. This highlights the need for us to reduce and even eliminate heat-trapping gas emissions from burning fossil fuels very quickly. For context, the IPCC's first assessment report was issued back in 1990 and came to the conclusion that humans were capable of raising global temperatures. So climate science has come a long way since 1990, the same year that Edward Scissorhands' Pretty Woman and Home Alone were playing in movie theaters. For additional information about the AR6, go to ipcc.ch. Number 4, another exceptional hurricane season. The Atlantic hurricane season runs from the start of June to the end of November, and 2021 was yet another exceptional year. With 21 named storms, 2021's Atlantic hurricane season tops out as the 3rd most active on record. We usually only see about 14 named hurricanes or storms in any given year. While 2021 wasn't the most active year on record, it will go down in history as one of the most expensive, with 4 individual storms, Elsa, Fred, Nicholas, and Ida, all causing at least $1 billion in damage apiece. Tragically, these storms also resulted in many fatalities, underscoring the need for us to have plans and hurricane kits ready to go for our families. Go to ready.gov/hurricanes to learn more about preparing for next year's hurricane season. Number 3, community scientists on the heat beat. Summer 2021 was another scorcher, setting the record for the hottest summer in the United States since records began over 126 years ago. Extreme heat is the leading cause of weather-related fatalities in the United States, and extreme heat disproportionately impacts marginalized communities in parts of our cities with limited green space and less access to cooling infrastructure like air conditioning. The Science Museum of Virginia has been leading volunteer campaigns to measure how heat wave temperatures vary around a city for the last several years. This summer, over 200 volunteers from community organizations and students at schools represented by the Virginia Foundation for Independent Colleges participated in the largest urban heat mapping campaign in the nation's history. In 10 cities across Virginia, these community scientists went out on foot, on bikes, and in cars to take temperature and humidity measurements during one of the hottest days of the summer back in July. These results will inform local, regional, and even statewide policy that seeks to understand where should we plant new trees first, or where should we build a new park, or where does a cooling shelter need to be opened during a heat wave to keep people safe. All the while allowing undergraduate students at these institutions place-based and community-centered research projects. Number 2, the Glasgow Climate Pact. The United Nations Conference of Parties, also known as COP, held its 26th meeting in Glasgow, Scotland this year, known as COP26. COP26 was focused on ramping up the commitments made in the Paris Climate Agreement back in 2016. The goal here is to limit global warming as much as possible, as quickly as possible. Thankfully, commitments to reduce heat-trapping gas emissions became even more ambitious in the Glasgow Climate Pact, or the agreement adopted at COP26. These commitments are expected to hold global warming to around 1.8 degrees Celsius, or about 3 degrees Fahrenheit. This still falls short of meeting the ambitious goal in the Paris Climate Agreement of 1.5 degrees Celsius. As we learned in the IPCC AR6, every additional increment of global warming significantly worsens the impacts of climate change. So, while these commitments are great, policy and action needs to come next. And number 1, the Virginia Coastal Resilience Master Plan. As you may know, Virginia's coastal communities are experiencing some of the fastest rates of sea level rise anywhere on the east coast of North America. This makes things like sunny day nuisance flooding more and more common and threatens our coastal infrastructure. In response, the Northam administration issued the inaugural Virginia Coastal Resilience Master Plan, aimed at identifying just what is at risk from sea level rise. By 2080, the number of people living in homes exposed to coastal flooding could triple. The cost of damages related to this flooding could reach over $5 billion. Hundreds of miles of coastal roadways could be exposed to coastal flooding, and 170,000 acres of tidal wetlands could be totally underwater. The Virginia Coastal Resilience Master Plan is expected to be updated every 5 years or so, continuing to provide coastal communities with initiatives and projects that are seeking to build resilience to the threats of sea level rise now and in the future. This gives all Virginians a clear picture of what's going on here in the state related to one of our most serious climate change impacts. All right, that's my recap of the top 5 climate-related news stories of 2021. For more information about our changing climate and ways for you to become more resilient to climate impacts, head over to our website, smv.org. And most importantly, have a happy new year.